waiting for
So,
a couple more people to hop on before we start. And like I said, we're also filming on YouTube or on Zoom for our YouTube channels. Hi, everybody. So I'm just going to start by just introducing my friend here. This is Jelani Jenkins. He's a performance and mindset coach. He's currently based in LA, and he is a former NFL linebacker. He spent the most time in Miami in the NFL, and then he made his way over this way to California when he was with Oakland Raiders. So I want him to kind of give us, you know, the journey from the beginning. And I have to even look up dates, you guys, on like when his first session was with me. And it was September 23rd, 2017.
wow.
And so, yeah. And that's pretty amazing. And also, you guys, he's a Reiki practitioner. Okay. So he's a certified Reiki practitioner. And that was exactly a year after his first session. So he got certified on September 23rd, 2018. I have to look that up today to be sure. It was amazing. So I just want Jelani to just kind of go almost like I was like, do I tell him to go back to that mindset where he was in 2017, that summer, and then just kind of take us through there. And I never even asked you this, if you know, your experience with Reiki and how you became interested in it in the first place. So yeah, just kind of like take us back to what that summer, I guess, what was going on.
I think, well, when we first met, I was making my transition. I had just gotten to Oakland from Miami. I was in Miami for 4 years and went with the Raiders for my last year. And so I was kind of new to the area, and I had some issues with injuries specifically. That's what got me out of Miami. And when I got to Oakland, I had injuries. And so when we first connected, it was around a time where I didn't know what was going to happen with the Raiders. You know, me and the coach wasn't completely meshing. There were a lot of different things happening. And so you definitely caught me in a time where I was looking for answers. You know, I was going through my own inner journey. And I think I hadn't really I didn't know for sure what Reiki was. I think when we first met, I kind of knew some things about it. I knew it had something to do with energy. And at that point, I kind of opened my heart up, opened my mind up to the experience. And I think, you know, the way we met was super organic. You met my wife first.
Yeah. And I love that she came in for her own, like, to start her own journey with it.
Yeah.
And understanding that side, you know, spirituality or, you know, energy more too. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so I obviously trust her opinion, and she had really great things to say about you. And so it was just a natural thing. I came, and, you know, the rest was history.
Yeah. And I looked back at the dates, and within like a 3-week period, I think we had 3 sessions. And it was right between the time that you went to Buffalo for a week with the Bills and then Houston, before you signed with Houston Texans. So it was like right in that time that you came in, and you're telling me about your nagging knee injury. So of course I tried to focus a lot there. And I still remember our first session, and I was like, you have a lot of birds around you. I was like, you have a lot of birds around you. Like, what's up with that? And then you showed me your tattoo, and then you told me what your favorite song was by Bob Marley. So
I think that's what was interesting about our Reiki sessions. They always felt like more than just like healing. It was more than just a healing method. I mean, I think there's probably a lot of Reiki practitioners out there who specifically deal with the healing, but I mean, we spoke for an hour and a half, and we've always had really good conversation. I think ultimately, when you kind of felt, you know, the birds around me, and then I told you kind of the backstory of how birds are very like important in my spiritual journey with the song "Three Little Birds" by Bob Marley. You know, I definitely think it connected us in a more, not just a physical way, but a spiritual way, a mental way, an emotional way. And so that definitely helped with the healing as well.
Yeah. And we're Pisces, both of us, you know, so we're
Pisces
March babies and, you know, sensitive and feel deeply and really want to like understand things, and truth seekers and things like that. So it was interesting to see you, you know, go on this journey. And it's kind of funny because like I remember when you came in for your 3rd session, and you're like, my knees, I was like, how's your knee? You're like, it feels better. And I was like, okay, cool. And then we started talking about Houston, right? And like going there. The funny part is like, I almost feel like the universe was like almost ready to like kind of help you transition to what's next. Because there was a lot of issues, not issues, but like some other injuries. Remember your hand? Like what happened first couple of weeks when you were playing at Texas too?
Yeah. So when I first, when I started telling you like Houston was interested and I was about to go out there and, try to get on the team, there were definitely like a lot of feelings inside of me thinking like maybe this may be my last year. I kind of felt myself being pulled away from football in general. And I was kind of going through that contrast, that mental battle. Like, is this the right move? You know what I mean? It was a very tough decision. And then the first day when I got to Houston, the first practice, I broke my hand. It was a fluke accident. I was just running down the field in practice and, my hand just pow. And then next day I was in, a cast.
That's crazy.
So that was just, another one of those realizations for me that this may be, it may be time for me to go. I was kind of trusting my intuition on that. And my body was kind of feeling like, maybe time.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And I didn't want to tell you that, but I was kind of like feeling that too. And then I think fast forward, it was like April. I think you had your last session before you're going to move. And you're like, we're going to go to LA. And I was like, you convinced Steph to go to LA? That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, that wasn't an easy decision. That wasn't an easy.
But she loves it now. Like, is she okay? Like with LA and
we have a really good community. We have a really great community out here.
That's important.
I think it was scary. It was nerve-wracking for the both of us. We're both, she's originally from Houston, actually. I mean, from Dallas, and parents and family are in Houston. And I'm originally from the East Coast. So the West Coast in general was completely new for us. And then life outside of football was completely new to us. So it was just it was a lot of unknowns, a lot of uncertainty. And it was kind of, the foundation of a lot of our spiritual journeys in general. So, it was a pivotal moment. I think the universe is definitely talking to us.
Yeah. And I'm honestly really honored to have been just a little part of like just seeing your growth, both of you, seeing that growth. And and I remember when it was scary and you guys, we're trying to figure out where are we going to move to and what's next. And I was like, are you, what if your agent finds you a team to go and try out for? Are you going to go? You know, and you're like, I could feel it, like this push pull of like, well, my family kind of wants me to stay in the NFL, know, not gonna lie, it's good money. And everyone, she gets to say, hey, my son or my daughter, my son, and your mom would say my son, your dad would say my son or my cousin is in the NFL.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there was a lot of external factors for sure. Yeah. Expectations and all those things that played a part. That's a lot of it. It made it tough. But at the end of the day, and I think Reiki helped out a lot with this as well. I was kind of going through that inner journey, and I could tell my intuition was strongly pulling me away. So at the end of the day, the inner was more impactful.
Right. And you were making some transitions at that time. Like you were like, I want to go vegan. Like you were wanting to eat cleaner and like, really have some pretty big lifestyle changes that I was like trying to figure out how that would work out for your career with the lifestyle changes you wanted to make. I'm like, usually you're bulking up, and as a linebacker and stuff. So it's just interesting that you're being really pulled towards, something else. It was crazy.
It was crazy. But you were there at a very important time.
Yeah.
I look back at that time and I'm grateful for all of the lessons that came out of it, because now it's inspiring me to do what I'm doing now.
Oh, totally. And you were already, we'll get to what you're doing now, but it makes so much sense what you're doing now to me. Like it's not a huge leap and it just makes a lot of sense. And so one of the questions that someone had wrote in that they wanted me to ask you was, how has Reiki helped you heal yourself and become more connected to yourself?
Yeah, so on a physical sense, Reiki initially, it truly helped my knee heal and feel better. Like you said, when we when I gotten cut from the Bills after a week being there, I went 3-4 weeks in a row. And when I got to Houston, my knee was no longer an issue. And I think ultimately the Reiki, it was a holistic type of healing because it didn't just heal me physically. I think it healed me in a lot of ways spiritually. And as I learn more about Reiki now in my life, I've done the research, different things like that. You know, I see why it's helped me spiritually. But at the time, I didn't really know why, but I did sense a lot of clarity. I did sense a lot of like connection to my intuition. And then, you know, just on the energy level, I think just our conversations in general just has been a healing factor for us. So I know a lot more like scientifically, metaphysically now what's going on.
What's going on.
It's helped me out, but before, you know, I felt the benefits of it, and I felt clear. I had more clarity, and ultimately, you know, it was very powerful. I don't know if that completely answered the question.
But, if you guys haven't checked out his YouTube channel, like, just go check it out. It's Jelani. Just look up Jelani Jenkins on YouTube. But he has a lot of good videos, you guys, and he's basically explaining, like, half of his videos should be on my page explaining, you know, energy and chakras. I have 2 kids. I don't have enough time yet to put up all these videos, but he has really good, you know, 20-minute videos that explain energy and mindset and different things like that. So I think you guys should check that out. It's really good. And he breaks it down very easy to digest if this is like something kind of new to you. So I see before we get into the mindset stuff, I'm just curious, what made you want to learn Reiki? Because it's one thing to receive it, right? And see someone to work on you. And I've been having a flood of people during COVID, during this election, during this year, this 2020, that have reached out that want to learn Reiki. So much so that I'm getting a lot of pressure actually on a daily basis from people who are not here in Northern California to actually teach like online. And I just have to figure out how to translate what I do in person, because you know how sacred that space is and what you know that day is, and how I get to observe you guys practicing, how I get to do attunements on you myself in person, you know. So I'm just trying to figure out like how to make that an online thing and do like the distance attunements and observe someone actually practicing on someone. Maybe they have to send me a video of them practicing so I can see, you know, assess what they're doing and things like that.
That'd be interesting. I'm interested to see how you do that.
I've gotten so like almost daily someone has reached out, are you going to teach online? You know, so what made you go, okay, I want to learn this stuff now. I really want to learn this.
Well, so initially, like I said, I was going through that transition. I had just stopped playing football, and I was sort of figuring out, you know, who I was outside of these football pads. And so that really led me along my spiritual journey. I started learning more about energy in general just from YouTube. And I know how much Reiki helped me out. And I know through our conversations, I learned a bunch. Ultimately, I wanted to go to your class in order to, I wasn't necessarily focused on making Reiki my profession in terms of doing it on other people, but I wanted to just get a more clear understanding of energy in general, of energy work, how to sort of channel energy in the direction that you want. I kind of wanted to know how it worked in order to figure out the best way for me to be the vessel and have energy work through me and what I wanted to do. And I think ultimately, like you said, we're Pisces. You know, I've always been interested in spirituality. I've always considered myself more spiritual than religious. Growing up, you know, my father used to take me walking around the park and, you know, talking about nature, you know, how the universe is always with us, how the ancestors are always with us. I like to, I don't know if you know, Lion King, the scene from Lion King with Simba and Mufasa. After Simba got in trouble and he's walking in the woods with his pop, he's like, all those kings up there, they're there and they're always going to be there for you. Those are the kind of conversations that me and my dad had. And I think ultimately that's always been, you know, just a real motivating factor for me. One of the affirmations that he taught me at a young age was, God is in me, through me, for me, and with me. And where there's God, there's no imperfection. And so when I learned, you know, through Reiki, how energy works, how the universe works, how God is all affected inside of that, how God is in us, how God is around us, how that energy and that divine essence is everywhere. All of that led me to wanting to, learn this practice.
More. Yeah.
Exactly. So.
Yeah. Were you surprised the first time you did Reiki and you actually felt something in your hands or felt something, what was that like the first time you did it? Like practice on somebody?
I didn't know what to expect. I don't know if I was surprised because I knew that it would be effective. One, I had already talked to my wife and she said that it helped her out. So I knew that I would get the benefits from it. I think I was surprised at how quickly I started feeling the effects of it. So immediately when I walked out of your office, I felt myself, I had a slight pressure in my head. And I remember you telling me make sure you drink water after this, because you kind of opened up my third eye chakra a little bit. And I remember you telling me that initially, just drink some water. You may feel this, you may feel that. That's your body getting adjusted to it. I think the biggest surprise was how quickly the effect worked on me. So
do you remember when you were in class, who you worked on for your first time? Who you practiced on? Was it?
It might have been Simone.
Simone, okay. And do you remember what it felt like when you were doing it, or the energy in your hands, or what was that first experience when you were performing it?
I felt like a tingling sensation wherever I had my hand in relation to her chakras and her energy centers. I felt just a difference in each area.
Yes.
And so I didn't really know at the time. I was new to it. I didn't know necessarily if that meant that there was blockages there, if that meant that it was open, if the heat meant that there was I didn't know how to necessarily quantify it. But I did feel the differences. I did feel like a tingling in my hand. So I knew something was happening.
Yeah.
And then you of course, in the introduction of that day, told us what to expect. So, there was a tingling sensation. There was a little bit of heat. I just didn't know at the time, how to qualify it.
And in my, I'm offering advanced courses now. We go more into that and chakras and colors and what the colors mean when you do energy with colors and things like that, and a little bit about crystals. So it's really exciting because I like this world. You just keep learning. You just keep learning and learning and learning. And I remember I told you I went to see Tony Robbins, and I was like, you should go see Tony Robbins.
You were the first one to tell me about Tony Robbins.
Yep. It changed.
Ended up going 2 times that next year.
It changed my life. It changed my friend's life that I brought with me. I was on my last bit of medication that I was trying to get off from my ulcerative colitis from having, this chronic illness since I was 20, 21. And I was on my last bit of weaning off of that. And you know how he runs his stuff. There's no real food in the building. And he makes you stay from, not make you stay, but it's 8 a.m. to midnight.
Yeah,
it's almost like retraining your body or showing you what your body actually and your mind can really do, kind of pushing past a lot of what you think you can do. And I cold turkeyed off my meds that Sunday after after that, and I never looked back. And so I've not been on any medication since almost 2.5 years now. And it took me a long time to do that. And so I just had a baby in May, and she benefited from me, with nothing else really in my body as far as pharmaceutical drugs. So that was really nice to do that.
You felt like Tony really helped you with that.
Yeah, motivated me to at least do that goal, along with many other goals after that. But that was one I saw that happen the next day. I made that decision. And I was done, and it was
those pharmaceuticals are out of control. I in my career, they were just handing those things out like candy. And there's a lot of people who are still struggling with it.
And I'm not. I want to touch on this since we're talking about it, and it is what I'm observing as patterns. a lot of people come to me because they don't want to take medication anymore. And I never go against doctor's advice, but I tell them about my journey and my experience with it and what I did to wean off, right? Because I feel like a lot of times with the medication, if you're not really getting to the root cause of the problem to fully heal, it's a Band-Aid, you know? And so when we can get to the root cause of why that's coming up, why is that chakra blocked, which is making me have ulcerative colitis? Why is the heart chakra blocked that it leads to breast cancer? Why is the throat chakra blocked that it leads to thyroid stuff, right? Why is the sacral blocked? So once I started understanding just energy in the body that's getting stuck or it's not balanced, and if it's not addressed, it turns into something chronic. So I'm really excited, and probably pharmaceutical companies are going to hate me for saying this, but I'm just like really excited to help people heal, like you said, in a more holistic way. And for the time being, sometimes you have to stay on the medication until you can slowly, you know, wean off, right? So
I think the medications, I think the medications like getting our system, you know, if we take too much of it. So it does take a little time weaning it off. And I'd say like just, you know, having a healthy balance is always good as well. And, you know, I'm not a doctor, so I can't tell people whether or not to take it, but I do believe that it's also a Band-Aid, and there's a much deeper cause. There's, you know, it's just fixing the symptoms, but there's also deeper emotional blockages and healing. I learned a lot from reading Dr. Joe Dispenza. You know about Joe Dispenza?
No, but you're gonna give me like the info after this so I can look into that.
Becoming Supernatural is a book from Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he talks a lot about the chakras, but he refers to them as like the energy centers. And he talks a bit about just how, you know, we have these energy centers in our body that are governing certain organs, certain systems, and when they're off, you know, when our body's not, you know, using the natural energy around us the correct way, how it leads to dis-ease, how it leads to different issues, and how, you know, that blockage could really affect us. It's fascinating when you just, you know, do more research on, you know, how multidimensional we are and how our bodies are just so aligned with just energy and the energy that exists all around us.
And it's, you know, I go back, when I explain to my clients, especially my new clients in my office, I say, you know, we learned this in like physics class, the energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It can only be transformed or transferred. That's it. So if you have trauma in the body and you have not transformed that and released that in a healthy, hopefully a healthy, positive way, you know, and healthy meaning like not, you know, doing drugs and drinking alcohol to deal with it, because that's not really releasing anything, right?
Just coping with it,
Right. So if you don't transform that stays in the body. So people think if they just forget about something, it'll go away. It's like, oh no, you just haven't dealt with that yet. That's going to come back up at some point. Something's going to trigger that is not healed within you yet. And then you're going to go have to do the work, you know?
And then it also like, it's just patterns that get etched in our DNA. If we have this emotional blockage and we're used to, you know, snapping at people when we get triggered a certain way, our body's just building up these patterns over time. And if we're not conscious, or we're not aware of those patterns, then they just keep running on autopilot, and we kind of get stuck in that past. We get stuck in that loop, dealing with the same emotional blockages. And so that was the key of really when it came to Reiki and energy healing in general, is it digs out the weed from the root. It pulls it out from the root, and allows for that I think of a flowing river. It takes the boulders and the rocks out the way and allows for that river to flow a lot more naturally. And you just feel better.
And I'm excited, like, you know, and Tony Robbins talks about patterns that he's observed, you know, and so I really started to go as a coach, as a life coach, you just see patterns. And as like a spiritual energy worker, I just see patterns too in the body, and the body doesn't lie. So when people come in, before they even tell me like what happened to them, I kind of already know based on where they hold stress and tension in their body, or what chronic illness, or what, you know, what they're telling me that they're feeling in their body. It tells me a lot of things right there. We didn't even have our 1 hour talk yet, you know, and I'm already knowing like, okay, I kind of know where this is going to go based on just where, you know, the energy is blocked in their body from what they're telling me that they're feeling, you know? So I think you know, this term self-awareness is so important because we are going to get triggered. There are going to be things like, I'm not perfect. I'm still working on stuff. You know, I had surgery recently. They kind of messed up when my daughter, Kaiser, kind of messed up when my daughter was born a little bit. And so I had to have surgery like 2 weeks ago. And what was coming up for me is I didn't know how to rest. Like I felt so guilty.
That's a big one for me.
For resting, like so guilty. And to see Rod have to take care of the kids, pretty much by himself because I couldn't lift anything. Oh, the guilt. Oh, I couldn't even, he'd be like, go upstairs and rest. I'm like in my room, just like, I don't even know how to close my eyes and rest. Like I feel so, you know, guilty for this. And I know where that comes from in my childhood and stuff too, of like always having to push through and do and like not take a break. My parents worked really hard. They worked both of them worked 2 jobs with me growing up. So I always see them like doing stuff and rarely like resting, you know? So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not being productive. I'm not, you know, helping out. And this huge sense of just guilt. And I just had a good cry and he like just listened to me cry. I just like cried it out. And I'm like, this, and this. And he's just, you know, listening. And then he's like,
crying isn't, crying is important. I think more men need to, you know, not feel guilty about releasing some of that energy, you know, some of those emotions. It's healthy. It's definitely healthy. I had to learn that too. You know, I had to kind of allow myself if there, you know how you just got that knot inside of you and you may, you know, I know for me, sometimes that knot helped me play football better. Sometimes that knot, you know, helped me in the locker room be a little bit more on edge and get the job done on the field. But once I kind of learned how to take that knot and, you know, observe it, you know, meditate on it and figure it out and become aware of it, I was able to like release it more.
Because you know why?
Self-awareness is huge.
You know why that worked in football? Because you were transferring the energy when you hit somebody.
Right.
So now that you're not playing football, where do you transfer the energy to? Right? You're not hitting people on the field anymore. It's funny because I played soccer growing up and I played till, you know, some years in college. And I realized like once I stopped playing, I had more of this like almost aggression and like in me, like anger, and it needed to go somewhere. And I was like, oh, wow, soccer was that a lot for me. It was an energy release. And without that, important. like lifting weights just wasn't the same as playing soccer and hitting somebody, you know, like, you know, really like contact sport on the field. So it's interesting that you said like, you could hold it and then like do better at football because you were like releasing it and transferring it when you hit the person.
That's why in a lot of ways it's very tough for athletes when they transition out of it. You know, like I said, we've gotten so used to figuring out how to channel these emotions in a different light. And then at the same time, you know, feel the immediate feedback, the immediate gratification from the crowd cheering. You know, if I let this energy out like this and I hit somebody, then all of a sudden the crowd's gonna go crazy. But then once you stop playing, once you're, you know, at the crib, what you gonna do with that anger? You can't just let it out on your significant other. You know, so I think that is one of the biggest things that I want to do in my lifetime, and I feel called to do, is help athletes learn to channel energy better. And I think of emotions. Emotions are just energy and motion. So channeling emotion better will help them to be able to heal a lot of the blockages, maybe pain from, you know, what's happened in their sport in their early childhood, but also learn how to channel it in a way that's helpful to the life and to humanity, the community.
Right. Yeah, I think that's, whoever's listening, this is powerful. And this is like one of the big exclamation point messages, you know, about understanding just simply how energy works and what's happening. And then, like if we don't have that outlet anymore, we need another outlet. That's positive, right? That's productive, right? Like you said, you don't want to be hitting your kids or your spouse, but like go to the gym or, you know, go take up boxing or like channel that in a nonprofit where you're like giving back to kids or whatever.
Or creatively. There've been a lot of amazing songs that have stemmed from like pain and sadness, you know, but you know, when artists are able to like channel that into something beautiful, you know, there are a lot of different healthy ways to channel that energy for sure.
Yeah, I love that. Because, you know, Reef is like obsessed with Adele. And, you know, she, you know, when, God bless her, but when she got, had her divorce, everybody was like texting me like, oh my gosh, she's going to come out with a new album now because she just experienced all this pain. And that's usually where she channels her energy from, is her painful experiences, right, into her music. And it's
Adele's a perfect example. She's a perfect example of it.
Yeah.
It's powerful.
What other like roadblocks do you see that athletes have when transitioning from playing sports literally their whole life, basically, right? And then getting so much praise, like you said, in the spotlight, right? Yeah. And then transitioning back to like, what do I do now? And the body might be busted up too, right? From all of that too.
I think the biggest thing is identity crisis. A lot of our identity, you know, especially if you make it to like the top of your profession, whether it's the NBA, the NFL, professional soccer, Olympians, like a lot of your identity, you know, your whole life, like my whole life, my identity was kind of surrounded by football. I was grateful enough to have like a family that always like etched in my head that, you know, one, you better graduate, you better get these straight A's. But two, it was always about like, what are you gonna do with football? Like, how is football going to help out your community? Like, how are you gonna use football to help out your community? It was always like, football was always the purpose vehicle, right? I would call it. It was always the vehicle. It was always the vessel to live out like a larger purpose. And even me having been raised like that, it was still extremely tough for me after, you know, going away and being far away from my parents in college and playing at a national football team like University of Florida and then going into the NFL. You spend like 9 to 10 years in that world, you know, no matter the upbringing I had, I still fully identified with being an athlete. So that transition was even tough for me, having had, you know, a really good support system. But I think that's the biggest thing for athletes, is just figuring out who am I outside of this, and not getting that praise once you stop playing. All of a sudden, like the followers leaving you, you know, on social media, you know, people not really caring about what you're doing outside of their favorite team. You know, it could be tough. And I think I felt a lot of the pain of it as well, of kind of releasing that part of me. People, we go through it.
So this, you know, the term mental health has been coming up a lot more, and athletes are being, you know, a lot more vocal in every sport. I see people stepping up and telling their story, and like NBA, Kevin Love, and like, you know, other people just like really talking about this more. Has that been part of like why? Well, tell everybody what you're doing now. Like, I like to just kind of share what you're doing now, and then how you can help, you know, with like the mental health aspect too. That, I mean, people are just struggling right now, especially with this pandemic, the elections, just 2020, how it's been playing out, and then so much uncertainty and, you know, shadow work that people need to do because all these triggers are coming up and they can't ignore it anymore. So share with everyone what you're doing now.
Yeah, so I transitioned into coaching, and specifically a performance and mindset coach. And one of the things that has truly helped me out in my lifetime, especially once I was transitioning, kind of like the tougher times of my life, was mindfulness and meditation, and not just meditation, but also like visualization. And also, when I did reflecting of like, what are the things that truly helped me get to where I got to, affirmations was a big one. You know, I spoke earlier about my father and his upbringing, and like the affirmation that he taught me: God is in me, through me, for me, and with me. Where there's God, there's no imperfection. You know, these were things that when I was reflecting, I realized they helped me get to where I wanted to go. They helped me see a version of myself that I didn't have in front of me. It helped me visualize a version of myself that, you know, I didn't know existed at the time. And so ultimately, all of that is what influenced me now to want to help others, high achievers, other athletes, entrepreneurs, discover what's great inside of them, you know, discover who they're capable of being by tapping into the power of their mind. And also learning meditation and mindfulness and how all of those things help you to become more self-aware of the limiting patterns, the negative programs that we've been, you know, running on all of our lives. And when we talk about like the reactions or limiting beliefs, you know, how are you when things get tough? You know, are you the type of person who starts to say like, I'm terrible at this, I'll never get better at this, and you talking bad to yourself? Before I meditated, a lot of those things were a bit unconscious and subconscious, but meditation helped me to sort of just become way more aware of those patterns, those unconscious patterns. And so that's what I'm doing now, is I'm helping people really rewire their thought patterns to be more empowering, and helping them to visualize a future that can truly bring them joy and bring them gratitude.
Yeah. Do you have tips for people who have a hard time being present? You know, because meditation is truly being in the present moment. And I tell people, you know, a lot of people pray, but then they don't wait for the answer. They don't even allow their ancestors, their guides, the universe to present an answer, because they're praying, and then busy, and they're never present, right? When people have insomnia, what that really is they're either thinking about the past or they're worried about the future, and they're not in the present, right? So their mind is racing. And so meditation brings that all back, right, to being centered and grounded and truly present in the moment. And so do you have any tips that like you do to help? Because in college, when my professor gave me a book about meditation, I thought she was crazy. I was like, sit still and think of nothing? That's impossible. You know what I mean? It took me, you know, a decade to kind of figure that out. So do you have tips for people?
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the main things is to recognize that it's not easy if it's something you've never done before, never tried before.
Right.
If your whole life, you know, you've lived in the past, you've lived in the future, and you haven't spent much time in the present moment, it doesn't just happen like that. So it takes practice, it takes consistency to actually sometimes even feel the benefits of it in a real way. But I would say one of the biggest tips I can give for people who are just getting started and having trouble being present is to diversify the mindfulness experience. There's a lot of mindful activities that you can do. And it's a lot of people think, I know when I first started, I thought meditation was just sitting down and not thinking about anything. But it's really about being present, and you can be present while you're in the car at a red light, you know, just putting, one of the ways I meditate is through sensory awareness. So if there's 5 senses, if I put all of my attention on what I hear at any given moment in the present moment, and I just have all my attention on those birds chirping out the window, that's being in the present moment. That's being mindful. That's practice. That's training yourself to be able to focus on the present moment. If you're taking a walk, there's mindful walking. Just being present on your footsteps, being present on your smell. What are you smelling in the moment? Being present. You can have a candle lit and just look at the candle and just have all of your attention on the candle. You can do mindful activities through smell. Maybe you have lavender and you just spend all of your time just noticing the sensation of the smell. These are all mindful activities. So I think that's a good way of not having it be a boring process to practice mindfulness, is learn how to diversify your mindful activities throughout the day, throughout the week. Because it's all training. And what I like to tell people is mindfulness is something that, you know, you should celebrate when you have these wins. And I'll get more in depth with that. When we practice mindfulness, you want to practice paying attention to a focal point. So a lot of it is the breath coming in and out of your nose. When you pay attention to that focal point, a lot of us get upset when our attention leaves, or we start thinking about the future or the past. But that's okay.
Right.
As long as once we get off of that focal point, we bring our attention back to the present moment. That's training ourselves to be aware of our thoughts, be aware of our attention. And that is practice. That is actually making it better. And you continue to do that, and you get better at it. So all these mindful activities, paying attention to what you hear, if you can pay attention to what you hear and focus on that for a little while, and you feel your attention going away, but you can bring it back to what you're listening to, that is a win. Celebrate it. And it gets easier, and it gets easier, and it gets easier. So I think that was a big thing for me to recognize that mindfulness takes a lot of different, looks a lot of different ways.
Yeah. And like you said, diversify it so it doesn't get boring, you know? For me, like my meditation in the morning and in the evening just looks like doing Reiki on myself. And I'm just either sitting down or laying down, one hand on my heart, one hand on my solar plexus, because my solar plexus needs it the most. That's where I hold my stress. And so I'm just there and just receiving. And sometimes I even like to just ask a question to my guides, to my ancestors, and then just sit quietly, like, and receive that. I also trained in hypnotherapy, so like self-hypnosis is something I like to do too, you know. But just like being around my kids helps me be more present, honestly. Like just being on the floor and hanging out with Reef in his playroom and just like being fully just there and like present, you know. Like you said, it doesn't have to be like this quiet place and you're sitting like this and you have your candles and your crystals everywhere. It doesn't have to look like that. It could, you know, it doesn't have to look like that. That's what people have to understand. They also have to understand, and this is for my Reiki students too, it takes practice, right? Like, and all athletes know, like all athletes know, it takes practice. So you're not going to go, hey, Britt, I just finished your Reiki class. So like, when am I going to be amazing? You know, like, or when it like, I'm like, no, it takes practice. Like just keep practicing. It gets easier over time. You'll understand the nuances with the energy over time. You'll understand how to explain it more to people as you keep practicing. And then your confidence builds, right? So even with meditation practice, that takes time. And just because you're not good the first week you try it and you go, oh, forget it. No, you know, have you guys seen martial arts? Like seriously, that stuff takes time to learn. And when you have like masters teaching students, like talking about years of learning and patience, but we're in this Western world that everything has to happen fast. Everything has to be right now. And it's like,
it's tough.
Not necessarily in the spiritual world when you're working on yourself. Like this is a lifelong process of like really, you know, channeling and energy and finding inner peace. Like I look up to monks. Like I look up to like these people who can, I've heard of monks sitting at a mountaintop, like, you know, that's freezing cold. Like the temperature is ridiculous. And and I heard that they put these wet towels on the monks and the monks stay there and meditate until those towels are hot, until they have channeled enough chi, enough energy in their body that the towels are hot and they're in a cold environment on a mountain, you know. I'm like, oh my God, I want to get, you know, there in a couple lifetimes. Like, you know what I mean? Our minds are
so powerful. And I think we recognize that as children intuitively. We came in this world just imagining and using our imagination. Our minds are so powerful. And, you know, our minds don't know the difference between an experience that like we actually see in front of us or that we create in our mind through memory or through visualization. And I think I've had experiences in my meditations where I've been in such a theta state, in such like a dream-like state, but I've been awake where I've had visualizations, and you can't tell me that I wasn't sitting in my dream job. You can't tell me that I wasn't sitting in my dream home, because the visualization was that real, and I felt the emotions of gratitude, of joy, of appreciation, like ooze out of me. So when you talk about the monks who were able to sit there and be present and have all of their energy inside of them, I have no doubt if they wanted to visualize a fire burning from within them, that they actually heat up their inner organs and make those towels warm. I have no doubt in my mind.
It's crazy, right? Like, that's why this world is so fascinating to me, because there's like, I have so much to learn. You know, I'm 7-8 years into this from the time I started doing Reiki, and I'm a baby still. And I'm so excited to learn more about like how martial arts and spirituality and energy work flow together. I want to learn more about crystals and singing bowls and shamanism. And like, I know I was Native American in a past life or
got
two.
my crystal, you know what I'm saying? Got the crystals, got the lapis lazuli, you know.
I got my carnelian to just kind of ground me right now. And then of course my aquamarine, so I can speak and express
that throat chakra.
Express myself, you know. And so basically what you're talking about is basically you're doing self-hypnosis without even realizing you're doing that. The first time I had an experience with like truly like visualization that I can recall was in high school. And to keep in shape for soccer, I did cross country in the off season just once, never again. I'd rather track. I was like, what was I thinking, cross country? So I did cross country, and the coach had us lay down, and he started talking about the course. He started describing the course that we were going to run that weekend. And he even had us walk it the day prior, just to kind of know when, you know, there's going to be hills, and then when it's going to get easier, and then when it's going to, you know, like these different. So he actually like walked us through the course, basically visualization, like guided meditation through the course. And that was the first time I realized, that's right, the body doesn't know it, that didn't happen, because the mind experienced it, and it, you know, like, and so it's like it happened already. So by the time that I got there on Saturday to run the race, when I was there running it, I was like, I've already been here. Like in my mind, I've been here. So I kind of know like, this part's going to be hard. Then it's going to get easier on the, you know, on the down. And, you know, so I knew when to like really deepen my breathing, because we worked on that in the visualization. So it's so powerful to do this stuff, you guys, not just with sports, you know, job interviews. You know, I work with my clients on visualizing the job interview and doing a hypnosis session for that, so they can see it going exactly the way they want it to go.
Yeah. Before like public speaking, like imagine yourself on the stage, like looking at the crowd. Imagine the crowd going crazy after you're done speaking. I can't tell you how many times I visualize that, you know, as something that I want to be in front of a crowd in the future. So I visualize that all the time, is, you know, really rocking it. And there's actually studies shown that there was a study that had people playing the piano, and one group actually was playing, you know, this certain chord or something like that, and the other group just was taught to visualize it in their mind for the next couple of days. And when they got the results back, they realized that the group who was visualizing it, actually their mental pathways were doing the same patterns as the people who actually were using their hands and actually doing it in physical sense. So our mind literally doesn't know the difference.
It doesn't. It really doesn't, you guys. So that's why it's really powerful to use your mind as a tool. Like, I got into hypnotherapy and wanted to learn so much about it because I wanted to understand how to make my mind work for me and not against me. So when anyone ever asked me back in the day when I first started this, like 2013, 2014, oh, hypnotherapy, so you're going to control my mind? And I'm like, no, that's not what it's about. Like, so I remember this story. I was in line trying to, at the post office with my mom, and it was like right before Christmas, so the line was long. And I had Holomue Healing Arts on the return address. And this, you know, Japanese guy, older man, you know, he's just like kind of being nosy, and he looks at it and he's like, oh, what is that, healing arts? What kind of healing arts do you do? And then, you know, I was telling him hypnotherapy and Reiki and stuff like that. And he's like, oh, hypnotherapy, like you control my mind, like, ooh, you know. And I said, no, like I help people get their mind to work for them and not against them. And I told him, think about it. You wake up in the morning and think about the first 2-3 things you think about. There's an energy attached to that, right? Like, yeah. And it's like, oh, I got to get up now. Oh, I got to check my email. Oh God, you know, this, and then I got to get in my car and get in traffic. And then your mind is going into a negative place already. And it's only like 20 minutes into your day. Right. So if you were more self-aware on how to make your mind work for you and the perspective you want to take about that moment. Okay. I'm grateful for waking up today. I'm grateful that I woke up in the United States with a roof over my head, with food on the table, and an actual car to drive to work today, when other people are getting up 3 hours earlier to walk or catch a bus to work. Right. So what perspective do you want to take? Right. So it's like getting your mind to be in a more positive space and looking at it differently.
There's gratitude in every moment if you want to find it. You know, every single moment there's something to be grateful for. You just got to look for it. And, you know, whatever we focus on grows, wherever our energy goes, wherever our focus goes, our energy flows. And so, you know, one of the things that I like to help people with, you know, with what I'm doing is helping them be more energy efficient, you know, and focusing more so on the things that you want to create in your life, and actively focusing on it, having a vision board, constantly like keeping your mind on those things is actually sending energy in that direction and ultimately helping to magnetize that experience back to you. And, you know, if people haven't heard anything about energy, this can sound all type of wild and all type of crazy, because you're not necessarily experiencing it with your five senses. You know, we can't see energy, but we know it exists. We can't smell it necessarily. We can't hear it, but it's an intuitive feeling. And it takes having to focus on it and pay attention to it. You know, it wasn't until I started meditating more and spending more of my time putting my focus on my internal world that I started to recognize like the subtleties and the differences of how my internal world feels. So like before Reiki, I never paid any attention to my inner world and like the different feelings that I have. I always was focusing outward, but it wasn't until I started meditating and getting used to actually, you know, paying attention to my heart space, paying attention to my solar plexus space, paying attention to like inside of my mind. It wasn't until I paid more attention to it that I started to recognize when those areas were not functioning correctly or feeling off or feeling imbalanced. So it's just like anything. If we focus on the negative all the time, that's what we're going to receive more of. And if we focus on the positive, that's what we're going to start to attract into our life. And then, you know, if we focus on our internal world, we'll start to be able to tell when our inner world is all balanced. So our focus and where we place our attention is so important. And that's why, you know, the world is constantly pulling our attention from us, because it is powerful.
You know, I mean, it's funny because this is where you and I both are right now with helping people, is becoming like energy aware and self-aware and understanding your chi, understanding your energy and how to use it, right? And then how to be aware so that you don't transfer the negative energy, that you transform it. I always give this example about like on the freeway, somebody cuts somebody off. Now this person's pissed off, and then they go drive like an a-hole and, you know, go home and take it out on their kids because they're like, oh, some asshole, you know, cut me off. So all that is transference of energy, right? Somebody needed to be self-aware there and transform that. And go,
what's crazy is,
you know,
what's crazy is that person who transferred that energy to the husband, who then went home and took it off on a wife and the kids. That kid may not ever get rid of that energy, emotional blockage, until they're 30 something years old, and they're wondering why like they're taking out all their anger on people, because that it could have started from the parent getting mad in a car when they were kids and still be affecting them. So that energy, it doesn't go away if you just try to numb it, or that those emotions and those blockages don't go away if you try to numb it or don't know how to deal with it. So it's important.
That's what we're doing in our work now, is taking those people who are 34, 20, 30, 40 now, and helping them transform that energy into something more positive and being more aware of it, you know, because it's our generation that we should just call our generation the great transformers. I seriously, I should make a shirt.
I like that.
Because we're transforming energy, and we're so self-aware that we understand our parents' generation might never be able to fully do the work to heal themselves. And we have to be okay with that. They might not ever fully awaken to, or even raise their vibration to where we are, to understand fully our understanding of things. But we can transform that energy so that a future generation, our kids, our grandkids, don't have to pass that trauma and that negative energy onto them. So I think our generation is to be the great transformers. And so that our kids can, like, I look at my kids and I'm like, oh my gosh, they just have so much love and so much energy to give this world. Like, why wait till they're 30 to figure their life out and what their purpose is? If they're like ready to go and they remember what they came here for, which a lot of the souls are remembering why they're here, let me just get out the way and support them. I'm not going to put my stuff on them or what I want them to be or want them to do. I'm just going to support and love them and accept them for who they are, and observe their passions and strengths and what they are curious about, and help them discover that more, you know, so that they can contribute in such a beautiful way to our society and raise the vibration with their own energy. You know, like, let me step out the way. You know,
I think these kids coming up now are on a whole different. They're on a whole different level. I mean, I think every generation is there for a reason, and I know, like, you know, our parents' generation, our grandparents' generation, that they were super important in ushering us into this world and giving us the confidence to be able to do what we're doing. You know, I feel like my purpose and our purpose is really to get this next group ready, because they're going to be the ones that take what we're doing and just because they're growing up in this technology age, and this is all they know, you know. So I'm excited for our future, and I know that's what motivates me, is for the next generation, just making sure that they have a world sitting there ready for them to build, and just giving them all the space necessary for them to shine their light, and, like you said, raise the vibration up, because the world needs it. The world needs it. I mean,
and not when they're 30, like now, you know, not when they're 30 figuring out their life, you know, and healing from all this trauma now, you know. And I think, to our parents and to, you know, our grandparents' credit, like with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, they really focus on the root and like our basic needs. So even now you can hear your parents talk about safety, security, get a good job, get benefits, like save your money, don't step out and be an entrepreneur. That's scary. That's not security. But to their credit, their understanding is basic needs, you know? And if we were lucky, maybe they focus a little bit on emotional needs. You know, and giving us some confidence and maybe some emotional needs. And then we're like helping with all the other needs, so that our kids can actually self-actualize and like really be here and focus on their purpose. You know, it's really important. Be here, learn their lessons, whatever their spirit incarnated here to learn. Because this is a cool thing, you guys, about in the spirit world, you cannot feel grief. There is no such thing. In the spirit world, there is no such thing as time. Okay, there's no such thing as time. That is a man-made concept. We vote on daylight savings. Time is a man-made concept. Okay, so it's just interesting how like the soul has come down to experience certain things we can't experience in the spirit world. To experience loss, to experience grief, to experience heartache, to experience overcoming stuff, to experience joy in and celebration and connection. And so I know people are like, why is life so hard? Why are we feeling this pain? I'm like, your soul wanted to come here and have that experience. You don't remember this, but it wanted to come and have the human experience. So we are a spirit having a human experience right now, you know, and we are feeling the divisiveness with this election, you know, left, right, Republican, Democrat. There's this huge divide, and we have to remember energetically, we're all connected. So what happens here affects here. You know, this election affects the world, right? Whoever the president is in the United States affects the world. So it's all energy. And I just see it as just energy being exchanged.
Yeah, for sure. I see the world kind of like that yin and yang that is always keeping itself balanced. I think of the universe, I think of balance, and there's gonna be good, there's gonna be bad, there's gonna be dark, there's gonna be light.
Yeah.
And as dark as 2020 couldn't be perceived, I think in the same breath, the universe is balancing it out by enlightening a lot of people. That there's a lot of light that's being raised up as well. So I think the world is constantly balancing itself out. And ultimately, you know, there's a lot of healing that happened in 2020. As much as, you know, you look on the news and see a lot of things that are negative, there's a lot of positive happening. And I know specifically in my friend group and people that I'm close to, there's been a lot of good that's happened in 2020. So I think, like you said, ultimately, you know, what we're seeing the red and blue, we're seeing the divide. But there is that inner essence in all of us that connects us all together. And, you know, I see it as, you know, we're all waves in this grand ocean. You know, we're all just individual waves, individual expressions of the divine. And, you know, we're connected in that sense.
Yeah.
So, and then it's okay for people to have different perspectives. It's okay for people to have different perspectives and different opinions, and, you know, one Republican, one Democrat. It's okay to have conversation and learn from each other. But to not get lost in this divisiveness, to not get lost in this matrix and in this world that's being created, but instead learn from it, learn from other people, and bring our own true light, our own true positive light to the mix.
Yeah. It's funny because, like, Rod, we talk about this all the time. It almost feels like the powers that be. It's like we're all in a bucket and they're like, haha, and they like shake it up, and it's like, I'm mad at you because you don't believe in what I believe in. And it's like, does someone just like, haha, this is like a fun game for me, you know, to just
there's a lot to be gained from the chaos, you know. There's a lot to be gained from
and it's like we have to be self-aware to not buy into that. And I think, you know, growing up, I always figured out a way to connect with people and focus on, even if it's just the one thing we have in common. We might be different on every other belief, but maybe we both like dogs, you know, or maybe we both like soccer, watching soccer, right? You know what I love about sports? It doesn't matter. Like, no one cares what your belief is when you're sitting in that stadium and your team wins. You see everybody celebrating together.
Yeah.
No one cares. Your race,
everybody's present,
your class, celebrating because their team won. You know, like, they're not seeing anything else with the person sitting next to them, and it's kind of beautiful in that way, you know. And then I used to love that about the Olympics, is that, like, for the one moment, it was sports that brings all these countries together. You know, sports, like, and that's like kind of beautiful to think about that, you know. And so I want to challenge people to find one thing that you have in common with the other person, even if you're having a hard time. Maybe it's your boss, maybe it's your coworker, maybe it's your in-laws, maybe it's your brother, you know, cousin, whatever. Find something you both have in common and focus on that, right? And talk about that and enjoy each other and enjoy the space around that. You know, there's so much things trying to divide us, you guys, and we got to find more commonality and just connect in that way. We need more connection. We really do. The news and the media and these things are very divisive because it's easy to control people who are in fear. And so when you divide and you scare people and you put out a lot of negative news, it's very easy to keep someone playing it small in life because they're afraid. Right? They're afraid. And so I know a lot of you might be listening and thinking, like, I want to try some new things during this time, but I'm not sure because of COVID. I want to leave my job. I want to start a business. I want to do what I really want to do because I've been reflecting during COVID. And this isn't, like, where I am right now. I don't want to be here a year from now. I want to be somewhere different, and I'm imagining it and it feels right. but I'm kind of afraid because like economics and COVID, and I want job security, and like, what if, you know, I put it out there, put my product out there, or my song out there, or my service out there, and no one comes. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
fear is
it's
holding people
natural.
in, yeah, in a place right now. And I think both you and I are trying to help people kind of like break free
Yeah,
from
yeah.
that.
It's a natural thing. I mean, we
Hmm.
all have kind of that ego that wants to feel love, that ego that wants to feel significant. And I don't think ego is a bad thing necessarily, but it can be an issue when it's like leading the way. You know,
Yeah.
so that part of us that fears, you know, that animalistic side of us who, you know, we have these patterns from ancient times where, where fight or flight kicks in when we feel in danger. You know, these patterns, these ego, this aspect of us can get in the way, and it's okay, and it's natural to fear the unknown. It's natural to fear, the possibility of failure and what that can, what it can cause. But ultimately, understanding the power of our mind, and when we tap into those aspects of ourselves, what we're able to create,
Yeah.
it truly helps out. So it's natural,
Yeah.
and I think we're really hard on ourselves. I know I was really hard on myself, when I
Right.
was first battling through fear, and
Right.
when I would feel fear with something or feel doubt, I used to be very hard on myself. But now I give myself a bit more grace,
Yeah.
because it's natural. But
Yeah.
I've seen at this point in my life what happens when you move past fear, and
Yeah.
it's worth it. You know what I mean? It's worth chasing your dreams. It's worth doing what you want to do.
Yeah.
So
I'm interested, like, where do you see yourself, or what do you see yourself doing in the next like 2 to 3 years? Like, what do you, I know you say you see yourself on a stage, like, you know, so
yeah,
what are some kind of like, you know, short-term, long-term goals, or how you want to expand, you know, your business? Like, what does that look like?
yeah. Well, the in person stage situation. I don't
Hmm.
even know what that looks like. With this COVID situation, but
Right. Right.
ultimately, I want to create a transformational experience for people. Something that,
Hmm.
like a weekend at Tony Robbins. You know what I mean?
Right.
Where people they come into a situation a certain way, and they
Yeah.
leave out feeling like they can, take on the world, and they've discovered an aspect of themselves that they didn't know that they had. I want to really be a transformation facilitator in that way, and physically, mentally, and spiritually transform people. And that looks, it can be a physical event,
Right.
but COVID has also made Zoom popping. So I see
Right.
myself being able to speak to a lot of different people at once online, and really just connect with the community of people.
Yeah.
I'm in the process of building out a course that,
Nice.
and I'm still kind of fine tuning exactly how I want to, the angle that I want to take on it. But ultimately, I want to help people discover the greatness and create the life and career of their dreams.
Yeah.
And so I see myself being able to work with a lot of people, um, to have flexibility where I'm able to, travel, where I'm able to, um, be with my family and have time to do the things that are important to me, but also to be able to help and to be able to serve. So it looks a lot of different ways, you
Yeah.
know?
No, and that's exciting. Isn't that so exciting? Like, and all the lives that you're gonna touch, and all the people you're gonna help, and all the aha moments that are gonna come,
Yeah,
and you're gonna see it on their faces when it happens, or hear the stories when
yeah.
they like message you about it. You know, that's really
All these
exciting.
things, all these things that you're mentioning, I've visualized before,
Yeah.
seeing the smile on people's face, and
Yeah.
all those things. So I am very excited about it. I get excited about it often. So
Yeah. And there's something to be said about an immersive in-person experience, you know, and
yeah,
that's the part I'm a little hung up on, like when I teach Reiki, because I like this sacred, immersive, in-person experience, you know, and that's what it was at Tony Robbins, right? This very immersive experience for 4 days
yeah,
where you don't really do anything else. You're just, you go to, because you're so exhausted by midnight, you go
yeah,
home and you get up and you're back there again at 8 o'clock. And he does that on purpose, you know,
yeah,
so that you don't have distractions that weekend.
Yeah.
That you're just showing up and being like right there in the moment. In with him in that immersive experience. So there's definitely something to be said about that. You know, for me, and I've mentioned this to you and I've talked about this a little bit publicly, going back to you know, transitioning from being a pro athlete or just, you know, college athlete, and figuring out what you want to do for the rest of your life, right? We see a lot of people struggling now with, you know, mental health. And a lot of that is due to brain injuries over the course of playing sports, whether it's getting hit in the head, having a concussion. I've even, you know, snowboarding and hitting your head. And so that is, you know, with that movie Concussion with Will Smith coming out, and people don't really have answers for CTE and for brain injuries and things like that in sports. It's a big topic that some people really want to talk about and the NFL doesn't want to talk about. I do see Reiki helping, and not even do, I see it now because I work with people that have head injuries. And so I'm really excited to help Reiki become, you know, more available in that space and have athletes realize that energy work can be one of the things they use to help them, you know, heal the brain. Because if it can heal other parts, why can't it heal the brain, right? And it can, because like I said, I'm working with people right now who had certain symptoms coming in, and after one session started seeing transformations, not being as anxious, not being as angry, actually sleeping through the night, you know, not being as agitated, all of these things. And so I'm excited to kind of move energy work into the athletic space a little bit more. And I want to teach more too. You know, I know my one-on-one is my bread and butter, and you know, because you've been in the session with me. And when you can connect and when you can really, it's not just the Reiki, like you said, it's the coaching part too, right? It's the talking, it's the explaining, holding space for my client to have these, ask the certain questions to help them transform. All of that's important. So I don't think my one-on-one with people will ever go away, but I do want to teach more on Zoom, and, you know, so that more people around the world can have access to what I'm saying. And I told you when I was watching your YouTube channel, I was like, oh, you're really pushing me to like want to put more content out there just so that people have something they can watch and learn from. And it's just basically like a free session with me, just watching one of my YouTube videos, you know? So I'm really excited that you're sharing a lot freely. You guys freely. So go check out both of our YouTube channels, because you would usually have to pay for a class to sit and learn that stuff, and it's free. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just really excited for both of us, and I could see us doing an event or some kind of Zoom thing, you know, class together in the future, especially with energy, you know, people being more aware of their energy, their chi, how they use it, what they're holding inside, how they're transferring it in negative ways versus positive ways. How can they change that, you know? So I think that's really, really exciting.
I thought what was really cool was the fact that like you taught us distance Reiki and you know, not having to be a one-on-one like in-person thing, but you know, energy being able to travel like distances. And I actually, you know, did distance Reiki on my grandfather. He passed away a couple of months ago, but I remember initially he was going through a lot of issues, and I told him, like, you know, tune in at this time. I'm gonna be tuned into you, and you know, I did distance Reiki on him, and it really helped him out. I also actually did Reiki on my dog, who was really sick, and I remember my parents back in Maryland were saying that they might not last too long, and it was like kind of their last days. And when I got home, I did Reiki on the dog and just put my hands on him. And she wasn't able to walk before that, but after that, she walked and ended up living for another 6 months or so before she ended up actually passing away. So it's powerful. It's powerful, and I've seen it help me out, and I've seen just how energy gets transferred in other ways, and I'm fascinated by it.
you know, when you work on someone you're already connected to, like a loved one or like your pet, it's so much easier to send it because you know their aura, you know their energy, and you're already so connected to them that it's like a no-brainer to be doing that stuff. It's a no-brainer to be sending, you know, that you guys, we are all connected on the vibration of love. That is how we are still able to connect with our loved ones on the other side, with our ancestors, and with each other over space and time, is this vibration of love. That's it. It's so simple. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I'm excited for more people to open their minds to at least experiencing a Reiki session. You know what I mean? Just try. What do you have to lose? A couple bucks? Like, try a session, see how you feel. And my suggestion would be to be open. You can be skeptical, but be open and receptive to the healing. Because if you're trying to prove the Reiki practitioner wrong, then you're not being receptive to the healing. Yeah. You know what I mean? So your energy is like blocking it. Yeah.
Yeah, we're all powerful in the sense that, you know, nothing can happen to us that we don't allow ourselves. So, you know, if you go into the situation and don't want it to work, then it won't work. You know what I mean? We should all feel empowered that we have domain on our inner world and how, you know, anything can affect us. You know, so feel empowered and be open to the healing, and you will receive the healing.
Yeah. We have a couple more minutes before I wanted to wrap up, and I kind of wanted to open it up if anyone had specific questions for Jelani, and it's giving me a moment to think if there was any other questions that I had for you. Just checking. I know some people have been commenting and sharing their experience, but I was just wondering if anyone had a specific question for you. When are you coming back to Northern California? Up here?
I was just there in March. I actually got there like March 12th. I went there for my birthday, which is March 13th. I went there with my brother, and I went to show him Oakland, and it was a day before COVID struck.
Oh, Jesus.
So,
wow.
Everything was closed when we got there. I didn't even really get to show him Oakland like that because, you know, everybody was scared and nervous and all of that. We just kind of stayed in our Airbnb. But I'm always come back to Oakland, like in the Bay Area, especially when it comes to that nature out there, the parks, the national parks. We don't get that in LA, you know, and Oakland is close.
Very true.
And, you know, I like Mount Shasta is about, 4 or 5 hours
I was
north
just going to
of
ask
Oakland.
you. I was just going to ask
That's my favorite spot.
What was your favorite part of your trip? Because, you know, I took the family recently. So what was your favorite experience?
Mount Shasta?
Yep.
Oh, man. One, being able to see the stars, like, clearly at night. And, like, I mean, it was like the first time I saw, like, the depth in the solar system. Like, I saw stars that were closer and stars that were further. It was like a 3D experience. I'm used to, if I do see the stars, it feeling like a blank, like a straight plane, but it was so clear that I could see like through the stars in the universe. That was one of my favorites. I mean, it had like some amazing crystal shops. There were so many like spiritual moments that happened, just people kind of running in to us randomly and just giving us a message. It's, you know, and for those that don't know, Mount Shasta is like, what is it, the root chakra of the world?
Of the world.
Of the world.
The root.
It's a highly, highly, highly energized place. The meditations were off the chain. Me and my wife, we got super close during that time. We were always close, but it was a very magical moment for us. It's my favorite spot. So anytime I'm going to Mount Shasta, I'm gonna stop by Oakland, you know what I mean, say what's up a little bit. But Mount Shasta and Oakland in the Bay Area and all that nature, I'm in love with.
Yeah. I love the headwaters. I love the waters around Mount Shasta. I love that. And it was too short. We need to go back. And I'm kind of bummed because I couldn't see the stars because of the fires, the wildfires. So the smoke, so we couldn't really see at night. So I want to go back for sure.
That's tough.
But you know,
I'm gonna probably go back for the winter solstice, the December 21st. Yeah, it's supposed to be a lot of major things happen on the astrological level. So
you might see some stuff up. You might see some stuff on the mountain.
I'm looking for it. I am looking for it.
we have a question that came in. It says, how do you clear your energy when you are overwhelmed? So how do you clear your energy when or how do you center yourself?
Taking deep breaths. Taking deep breaths is what I started off with. When it comes to like beta waves, if you're familiar with beta waves, it's like the beta wave, beta brain wave that happens a little bit faster. Then there's the alpha wave, that's like a slower wave. There's like a theta state. And when we're overwhelmed, we're like deep in that high beta state. So like our mind is going crazy and, you know, it's sometimes hard to catch your breath. So the first thing I do is look to just take deep breaths and kind of trick my mind into believing that it's safe, you know, believing that my body's safe. I take those deep breaths to help my system feel like it's not in stress, to help my system know that there's no tiger running at me, and to just cool out. So those deep breaths are the first thing I do. And then ultimately changing my focus. You know, a lot of times when we're overwhelmed, we're thinking of the worst thing that can happen. We're thinking of all of the different things we may have to do in the day. So once I'm able to calm my brain waves down and actually hear my intuition and my clarity, that's when I start to change my focus to, okay, what can I be grateful for in this moment? I like to tune into gratitude. Like gratitude is one of those states that when I tune into gratitude, and when we all tune into gratitude, we start to actually, one, feel our energy rise, but also like what we're thinking about changes. We start to, if you think of something that you're grateful for, it's a lot easier to think of something else that you're grateful for. It's kind of like the flip of being overwhelmed from being stressed out and thinking of all the things to be stressed about. Like once you tap into gratitude, you start to think of more things to be grateful for. And I try to stay in that state. And it's taken some practice for me to like be able to do it quickly, obviously, but that's how I do it. I calm down through like deep breathing, and then I change my focus and start to ask, okay, what can I be grateful for? Or if there's a lot of things happening and I'm overwhelmed with like things to do, I just try to focus on, okay, what's the priority? What's the one thing to focus on? And I do it rather than thinking of like, oh, I should do this first, or maybe I should do that first, and get all boggled up.
Right.
Another thing that can help is journaling and getting it out your head. Writing it down and getting it out your head, along with deep breath, deep breathing.
And like you said, nature too, right? That's what he loves about up here. And just getting outdoors and being with Mother Earth. She's the best transformer of energy, better than anyone else. She's the best transformer. So just spending time outside, taking in like fresh prana, fresh air, right? Breathing in fresh air, taking those deep breaths. That's why I have a little issue with the masks. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I get that we have to be safe, but when I'm not by people, I don't want to wear it because I need to breathe in fresh air, fresh, you know, oxygen. Because if not, I start to feel anxious without being able to take a deep breath. There was a question here. Well, let me see if I can get the question back. She said, "Thank you so much. Sorry if I missed it earlier, but what are some ways you push past fear or doubt, especially when it comes to stepping into your purpose?" Oh, Simone. Simone said.
Simone.
Yep. How do you push past? It says, let's see. What are some ways that you push past fear or doubt, especially when it comes to truly like stepping into your purpose?
Yeah, great question. I think for me, one, I try to like leverage the fear. I try to get it behind me, you know, so I don't try to cut the fear off and say like it doesn't exist, but I try not to let it hold me back. I try not to put it in front of me. I try to put it behind me, and ultimately allow myself to feel the fear and like not judge it, but kind of get comfortable with it. So taking deep breaths through the feeling of fear has helped me be able to actually take the steps even though I feel it. So I've gotten more comfortable with actually feeling that knot in my chest when I'm afraid to do something, actually just feeling comfortable and breathing through it. That's one thing. And then two, when it comes to like stepping into your purpose, I think the more you can experience, you know, what you define as your purpose in your mind through visualization, like that has been super key for me, is being able to visualize and feel myself stepping into my purpose. Like no one can tell me that I'm not going to end up on stage because I've seen it. I've experienced it so many times. Right. The belief is so real inside of me, but it's because I've done the reps and lived in that world so many times. And belief is the most powerful thing you can rely on. And then, you know, once you overcome one fear, jot it down. Like, don't forget that you overcame that fear. So later on, when you feel yourself getting held back, go back to the win that you had last week when you stepped over your fear and you were able to benefit. You know, the more you can overcome fear and experience those wins, the more confident you'll be stepping forward and moving forward. But ultimately, those things help me out, is to breathe through it, understand fear is an emotion, and you're going to feel it in your body. So when you feel it, being aware that it's there and just breathing through it and still taking that step, counting it as a win, and then also really experiencing the joy of you winning on the other side. Experience the joy of you stepping into your purpose in your mind, visualizing it in the best way possible. And then there's ways to make visualization even more, impactful. And I have some videos on my YouTube to make like the visualization so powerful to the point where you can like feel it. But just experiencing it as much as possible is what helps me know that on the other side of this fear is like real blessings.
Yeah.
And me personally,
go ahead.
I was gonna say what I've noticed is that fear is like a compass. You know what I mean? And whenever I've like walked and ran towards fear, like now I purposely go towards things I'm afraid of, because there's always been a blessing on the other side of it. It's always been a blessing on the other side of it. So the more we can get comfortable with the fear and just see it as another emotion in our body and just breathe through it and get comfortable through it, the more it'll like actually change our life for the better.
She said she's taking notes and then she's going to head over to your YouTube channel later.
Nice.
It's so awesome.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And awesome. I think, what comes up, what the patterns that I see with my clients, and Simone is a client and a friend of mine, a lot of times we get stuck on the judgment that is going to come from people, possibly our loved ones, possibly our parents, possibly our friends, when we actually step into what we're being called to do. It's the judgment that people are afraid of. It's not actually succeeding. It's the judgment. It really is, and when I started this in 2013 in Hawaii, and I started telling people, I'm this native Hawaiian girl back home doing hypnotherapy and Reiki, people are like, what are you doing? Like, go back to your journalism PR career. Like, what are you doing? Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Looking at me crazy because people weren't talking about this stuff 7-8 years ago, not like as freely as we're talking about this stuff now. And so I could feel the judgment. I could feel that coming from all directions, really. I'm very blessed that I had a few friends that believed in me or trusted what I was doing, and especially my partner. So Rod really was along with me for the journey and 100% believed in me. And that was super important for me to do.
That support system is huge.
It's huge. It's huge. Even if it's one or two people in your corner, and I could fully share everything with him, that was super huge. And I kept focusing back on all the people I was going to help. So every time fear came up for me about doing this energy work thing, or, people think I'm weird, they talk about me, they say I'm a witch, like whatever it is, I just focused on all the people I knew I was going to help because it helped me, because Reiki helped me. And so I knew it was real. I had a real experience with it. And so I just visualized and took kind of my ego out of it and was like, that's okay if there's judgment put on me and, people are going to think I'm crazy, because I could actually see the line of people that I was going to help. Like, I can't see their faces, but I could just see hundreds, thousands of people that I was going to help if I stepped into my purpose. And so when I focused back on the people I was going to help by doing my purpose, the fear of the judgment and everything else became a lot quieter.
Yeah, it becomes quieter. I think the more conviction you can have about your purpose and what you're doing, the better. And like conviction needs to be trained. You know,
Yeah.
it needs to be trained. Like that voice in our head that's like fearful, you can't do this, you can't do that. Like that voice that's been trying to protect us all this time has been trained over the years. It's been allowed to speak over the years. So it feels strong, it feels powerful, it feels loud. You know, so we got to train that empowering voice just as much. That voice is like, you can do it. Those affirmations, that I am great, that I am the most magnificent singer in the world if you're a singer, you know, like speaking to yourself, speaking life into yourself, and to the point where you're training your subconscious mind to have the conviction of what you're capable of helps to offset that fear. And I'm telling you that there's running backs like in football, the guys with the ball, they're running for their life out of fear. You know what I mean? Like fear is a powerful emotion when leveraged the right way. And there's a documentary called The Defiant Ones about Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine, and he said a quote, and I don't know it off the top of my head, but it has something along the lines of, he's been operating on fear like his whole life, and fear he used as something that came behind him and pushed him to just keep moving forward. And he was always in the right place at the right time because he felt himself being fearful of the moment, but he believed in himself and he had a vision of what he wanted to create. Fear is powerful. Fear is powerful, and it only becomes an issue when it's in front of us, holding us back.
You know, Simone made a comment earlier. She said, like, you know, the fear of like, will people show up? And so for someone who's like stepping into their purpose, whether it be offering healing services like Reiki or doing what you and I do with like the coaching work, you know, fearing like, are people going to show up? Are they going to want what I offer? Am I good enough to offer this stuff? Right?
Yeah.
You guys, there's so many people that need help and healing in this world. The clients are endless. Even a life coach needs a life coach. So even if we were all life coaches or all healers, we'd all still need each other. And the ones that resonate with you are going to come. The ones that resonate with you are going to come. Okay. So just remember that whenever you're providing some type of service, you know, whether it's, like I said, healing or coaching or anything like that, the right ones, every morning I get up and I say, good morning, universe. Please let the world know I'm open, you know, and open. I'm ready to help people heal. And may the right ones that we truly connect and are ready to do the work, may they find me, right? May they find me. And so it's just energy again. So finding your, you know, your soul client, not even ideal client, your soul client, finding those soul clients is just energy. So put out that energy that your soul clients will find you. And then you're going to do good work together. And that energy exchange is going to be balanced and incredible and super fun and dynamic, right? And so it just goes all the way back to energy again, you know, goes all the way back to energy. So
and just continue to take those steps forward. Just keep moving forward. You know, you'll fail, but learn the lesson. You'll get better at it. You'll fail, you'll learn the lesson. You'll get better at it, and you'll be more convicted. And you'll have more conviction of what you're capable of, and you'll have experienced wins under your belt, and you'll just keep moving forward. And not only will people resonate with you as a spirit, you know, but they'll also see, you know, your growth. They'll see that you're actually really good at what you're doing, whatever it is you want to do. You know, so just, you know, keep taking steps forward and learning the lessons. Like babies don't read a book on how to walk. They keep falling. They just keep falling down, and then eventually their little feet get moving and they keep moving. So
I think, you know, we're going to wrap this up soon. I want to keep it, you know, under 2 hours and stuff, but I think we're definitely going to have to jump back on and do, you know, another one of these because I think it's really dynamic, and I like the questions, and I like people being able to, you know, come on here and just have a nice energy exchange. It's just energy exchange, right? So we're going to say thank you to the live feed right now. I'm going to try to save this so that it's on my channel, and then Jelani and I will wrap up with our Zoom and our YouTube. So thank you everyone for joining us on IG Live. Please go and follow him and go check out his YouTube channel. Go check out my YouTube channel. This will hopefully be up on my YouTube channel. Actually, both of ours, hopefully in the next 24 hours. But thank you for all like tuning in. We really, really appreciate you and sending really good energy to everybody.
All that energy. Peace.